You are now tuned in to the Worldwide Underground. My name is Gabriel Teodros, your host on this ride where we get into the art and politics of storytelling. Right off top, I want to thank everyone who's still rocking with me here on the Substack, gabrielteodros.substack.com. The best way to support all the work that I have going on is by subscribing here. Thank you to everyone who's still with me. I know it's been a minute between episodes. I've been hard at work on this album that's coming out this week. It's a remix album, the follow-up to last year's From the Ashes of Our Homes. It's called Embers. I reimagined and re-envisioned songs from 7 different projects throughout my catalog, including the Ashes LP. And it's coming your way this week. My guest today on the podcast is on both the Ashes and Embers LP. She happens to be my actual cousin, y'all. And is just an incredible singer, songwriter, a visionary, an organizer, someone who's inspired me for a very long time. Her name is Meklit. And she's got a new project out that I just wanted you all to listen to. So that's all this is. An episode-long encouragement to go click play on a new project called Ethio Blue. Nah, but for real though, do that. And while you're at it, if you haven't gotten deep into Meklit's music, check out her entire catalog. Starting with 2010s On a Day Like This, the We Are Alive album, which is one of my favorites. Her last full-length album, When the People Move, the Music Moves Too. We did a collaborative record in 2012, if you haven't checked out, called Copper Wire's Earthbound. It's like this Ethiopian sci-fi story that we told through music. There's just so much to dive into. And also the organizing work that Meklit does is incredible. She did a project called the Nile Project back in the day, where they unified musicians from every single nation that the Nile River touches, and they did a residency where they collaborated and taught each other their musical traditions and taught each other classes, and then went on tour. It's just one of the most inspiring shows I think I've ever seen. What else? Arba Minch Collective, she brought me to Ethiopia along with a bunch of other Ethiopian diaspora artists to connect with the homeland and with each other. And this movement podcast initiative that she's doing right now is so incredible. Definitely check out the Movement podcast and the rest of this episode to hear more about what Meklit's up to in her own voice. I'm gonna stop talking now. Let's get into the episode, man. It's the Worldwide Underground. Appreciate y'all so much.
Transatlantic rivers run, currents pushed us past the sun. Music pulsed and beat and flew. The music bleeds, Ethio Blue. Pentatonic DNA filled our veins and made us this way. Music lived between us two. Its power sweet, Ethio Blue.
Hey, it's the Worldwide Underground. My name is Gabriel Teodros, and today I am joined by an incredible singer, songwriter, organizer, my actual cousin, and definitely one of my favorite collaborators that I've ever had. Meklit Hadero is here on the Worldwide Underground today. How are you, Meklit?
I'm good. I'm like, oh, you're one of my favorite collaborators too.
Hey, it means a lot. It means a lot. Congratulations, first of all, on a brand new project. Ethio Blue is out right now.
Thank
6 new
you.
songs. How's it feel having some new music in the world?
It's it feels good. It's been a long time since I've released an album, which of course, let's see, the last record came out in 2017, which feels like a blink of an eye ago, but it was
Yes.
also like eras ago.
Right.
So, yeah, it feels really good to have new music in the world, and um just to keep it flowing, because like then you get in a place of releasing it becomes easier to release more, it's like the muscle gets stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. For people that don't know, that haven't been, following closely, what have you been up to in those years between projects? I know it's a whole lot.
Okay, well, we could do the list. First of all, I became a mama.
Big
um
one.
Big one, life change. I read something um that was saying that your brain changes as much when you become a mom as when you go through puberty.
Wow. Yeah.
Like you're really a different person. Anyway,
Yeah.
and that slowed me way down. I think in a good way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it deepened a lot of my capacities for so many things. And I also uh let's see, I started a podcast and live show about music and migration and
Yeah.
radio show, and that has been a labor of love for many years. That
Yeah.
actually also started in 2017. It just took a long time to take off. Um,
I
the
want to
pan-
talk more. I want to talk more about both of these, but there's more. Go
Let's talk
ahead.
about it. The pandemic happened.
I
I
know.
had a day job for a while, something I never thought I would do. Yeah, what can I say? It's been, like I said, it was eras ago, and they are eras full of change and evolving.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask you more about parenthood and how parenthood you think has changed you as a musician and as a songwriter, because it's something that I hear in your music now, and I'm wondering like how does it sit with you, like,
Well, I'll answer the question, and then I'll ask you, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
As an interviewer, if you said something like that, I would be like, tell me more about that.
I can.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
It's um so many of your songs, I feel like, I mean, clearly with the single My Gold, like that's clearly like to your son. But even throughout the EP, I feel like, from Here to Imagine to Antidote, like so much of it is like future focused.
Yes.
um it seems like you're talking to the listener, but it also kind of seems like you're talking to your child, and that these are songs that you want to help create a world that that he deserves. Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's an accurate read on those songs.
It is an accurate read on those songs. I wrote most of them while I was pregnant, and
uh
it was like a really interesting time. It was the spring of 2019, and I was in my previous sort of eras when I've had to write an album, when I've you know set the intention to write an album, I would say, I need months. I need months where all I do is spend time in the studio and create music. And I would block off like literally like 8, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks on the calendar and just be like, I'm just going to focus. And it would take that long. And then when I was pregnant, I was like, I can't actually do that. Like I couldn't spend all day in the studio. At the time, I had a residency and I would have to be there in the afternoons at 1 o'clock. So I was like, all right, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to write for 2 hours, and I'm going to move on with my day. And it brought the creative process into this space where it was like, okay, you're going to have to fit this in your life in a different way now.
mm,
And I was sort of planning for that because with a kid, like you can't focus for like you can't, you have to fit it in. And so that almost felt like part of my brain changing. So my whole creative process changed. And then I was absolutely thinking about those things that you're saying. What kind of world do I want my child to live in, be in, grow into? How do I want him to feel empowered to, use his own voice and shifting it? How do I want him to understand the resilient power inside of him? And
Hmm.
um, and then also at the time it was 2019, and it seems so it's strange to talk about it now, but at the time it was like years of Trump and just like
Yeah.
constant assaults. Like it felt like a different kind of felt like being verbally assaulted all the time, and I
Hmm.
and the people that I loved felt very
Yeah.
tired of that, tired, and it was also to my people to understand
Hmm.
their power, resilience, and the collective potential that we have. And so it was to my son, but it was also to my people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much those songs sound just as relevant now as they did when I wrote them. With what
Hmm.
we've all been through and are going
No,
through.
yeah, it feels like right now. Like I wouldn't have guessed that you wrote those songs that long ago at all. It seems like right now, and it does seem like it's for everyone. It feels like it's very much for the collective, and yeah, it's just beautiful. I wanted to have you on here just because I want everyone to listen to this EP. So I might I might sprinkle some music throughout this episode if that's all right.
Please, please. I
Yeah,
have instrumentals if those are helpful.
they are. Yeah, please. Would love that. Do you have any favorites on this record? I know that's probably hard. I know the usual answer is like they're all my favorites, but
But they're not.
okay.
No, I do love them all. And if I didn't love them, I wouldn't be able to share them with the world. But
Truth.
uh, my favorites are, well, it's going to sound like most of the record, but Antidote for me,
Hmm.
Ethio
Hmm.
Blue,
Yeah.
um, Bird Song, and Hagare Ethiopia are just like,
Nice.
for me, there's just something, I don't know, but it's true. I don't, I, it is hard to pick. It is hard to pick
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're a
No.
whole, right? You choose you bring them into being as a whole.
Yeah. Absolutely. Back when you released your first album, 2010, um, I remember being so excited for that album for so many reasons. And one of the reasons I was excited was you had a song that was in Amharic. And at that time, neither one of us was fluent fully in Amharic. So I
We
felt like
still not.
I know. Well, I feel like you have a lot more of it than I do, Um, but this was my question. I don't know if it's every song. If you had a song in every album that's been in Amharic,
Yes.
I wanted to ask about like what that process has been like as someone who is working to reclaim the language, to relearn the language, um, and you've made a point to include a song in your mother's language and your father's language, like on every record. Like, what has that process been like?
Well, in the first record, the song was Abai Mando,
Yeah.
and I chose it. I felt like I didn't choose it; it chose me, and
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those songs that just wouldn't let me go. I would wake
Mm-hmm.
up thinking about it. I would wake up singing it. I would be walking down the street and it would pop into my head. I
Mm.
would be doing anything else you're doing in the world, and the song would just show up in the front of my consciousness again and again. And I was like, listen, okay, subconscious, I get it. I'm supposed to do this song. And or okay, God, or okay, ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
like all the I was just like, okay, I'll do it. Okay. And it was like a surrendering to something more than making a choice.
Mm.
And so we did that version of it, and it became a hit in Ethiopia.
Whew, did it
And
ever?
I was so surprised. I was very taken aback.
Yeah.
I didn't ever expect that my silly, like I was like I didn't have any confidence in singing in Amharic. I was just like I just felt I was like I feel super self-conscious about it, but I'm just going to do it because I just have to.
Yeah.
And so then after that, it was like I got opened to traditional music in a different way through that song. And then I was going to visit a person by the name of Professor Adunya Worku, who lives in the North Bay. I live in the Bay Area, and he was in the North Bay, and he was a traditional musician. He would play kerar and masenko, and um, he taught me the song Kemakem.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned the Muluk and Malesa version. Rest in peace, rest in power. He just passed away.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
and um, and I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me that there is a traditional Ethiopian song about the person with the perfect afro,
It's
and
perfect for you.
and it's so vibey and so deep and so old and ancient at the same time. Like I am doing this song, like
Yeah.
this is for me. Again, it was
Yeah.
like it just was speaking to me. And then it really, and like also it's like a pan-African love song, like, and it
Yeah.
did resonate in that way. Like it did like hit in the US and Ethiopia and in Brazil and like,
Mm.
Kenya and stuff like this. Um and I'm actually almost finished now with an album of traditional music. Like
Wow.
it's 6 songs um that are traditional
Amazing.
music, and then some, and then like 3 originals that
Amazing.
are based in traditional music, and that
That
will be
you
out next year.
and you did you actually write lyrics in Amharic this time, or is it like
So I did write lyrics in Amharic on my last record, on When the People Move, the Music Moves
oh,
Too, from
okay, yeah,
2017. The
yeah,
originals on this one are in English, and
okay.
the rest of the album is in Amarinya. There's a song in Orominya, and there's also a
Oh,
song in Kambatinya.
I love
Yes.
it. I love it. That's so cool. And you have people like helping you with pronunciation and stuff like that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you need to, right?
You get people. That's what you have to do. You have to. All right, they send it written, then
Uh-huh.
speak it out loud. There's then, okay, please send it again, and just an audio voice message slower. And then
Mm.
there's an app called the Amazing Slowdowner.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like how people transcribe solos.
okay.
So like if a saxophonist wants to transcribe what was John Coltrane actually doing, then
Mm.
they'll use the Amazing Slowdowner. You slow it down and then you transcribe. And so I was doing that with the words, like say it slower. Is it a or a ah? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
slow it way down. Hear it again. Hear it again. Hear it again. Then you do it. Then you
Mm-hmm.
send them a version of it, just audio. How does this sound? Did I get it right? Oh no, they send corrections.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a process, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, those subtleties really change a whole word, ah or a like literally,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in any language, just think
Yeah.
about like, um, I don't know, read and read, or like, I mean, think about it.
Right.
There's like a
Yeah.
million. It's
Yeah.
but it's not even. Those are the same verb in that it's a different tense. Like you could change a whole cut or cat. You know.
Right. Right. You're right. You're right. I didn't even think about it in English, but it's exactly the same. Yeah, that's hella true. Um, Hearing you talk about Hagare and like and Come and seeing it transform in Ethiopia, like it just takes me back to being in Ethiopia with you back in,
Yes,
oh my God, 2011 now. I can't believe it's been that long, but
I know.
like seeing you perform Hagare in Ethiopia was like, oh, I didn't hear this song right the first time, because the way audiences respond to that song in Ethiopia are completely different than the way audiences responded to it in the US. It's like people,
Completely.
the way everyone just knows like how to clap to it, like there is a certain beat there that is implied in the recording, but when you perform it live to those audiences, they're catching it, they're singing along, it's celebratory, it's big, like there was nothing like it. And then I remember a night where you performed at, I can't remember the name of the venue, but it was a jazz club, and it was either the first or second time you did Come, and it was like I saw you transform on stage that night. I don't know if you remember this night that I'm
I
talking about.
do. I do. It was. I think
I
it
don't
was a
even know if you
place.
recorded. Yeah, I don't know if you recorded "Come a Come" yet.
No,
Yeah,
we hadn't recorded that. What I remember that night, it was like a Zithia,
Alizé.
Alizé. That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, with Addis Acoustic. Yeah,
Yup.
yeah,
I a
man.
hundred percent remember
I
that.
yeah. There's so many memories from that trip, and this is kind of a segue to a question I wanted to ask you, because when people ask me about what are my favorite performances of all time that I've been a part of, that show that we had in Gondar where the lights went out are absolutely like the top of my
Ooh.
list. You know, I wanted to ask you what are some of your favorite performance moments, or if you have one or two, and if you could
Oh
describe them.
well. Can I just tell the story of that Gondar trip, or have you told that on this show yet, ever?
I no, I haven't told it on this show. I don't. I've told it publicly, but I don't remember the last time.
Well, what I remember was, first of all, we weren't even supposed to be in Gondar, right? Because the festival we were a part of had gotten canceled, and
Yeah,
we decided like, no, the people of
we're
Gondar
gonna
are
do this.
expecting us. We are doing this, so we rented our own van.
That's
We
right.
figured out our own way there, and there was 14 of us in a 14-person van, and it was so tight, and it was
Yeah,
amazing. And like the drive there,
yeah.
and it was, we got to the hotel, and the show was
can I
the next
can
day.
I
It
can I
was, yeah, yeah, go ahead,
can
go ahead.
can I throw in this? Can I throw in a story about the drive? We drove to Gondar from
Yeah.
Addis, which is what, a 10 or 12 hour drive. And I remember there was one point where there was a people were warning us about bandits. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And we hit this bridge where there was just like, oddly, there was just a bunch of rocks blocking the bridge, like huge boulders that the van couldn't run around. And and there was also, like, to the side of the bridge there was a path that you could drive down, and then a river. And I remember the driver got to these boulders, and we're like, oh, this looks fishy as hell, because we're being warned about bandits. Like, where are these big boulders coming from, just randomly blocking the bridge? The driver probably doesn't want to get jacked either, so he's coming down to the side. And I remember he didn't even say anything to us, but he just stood there, like, on the like sat there in the car in the van, and we're all like, "What's going on?" And I think he was like building up stamina or something, and then he just like floored it and just drove across the river. It was like one of the wildest moments of the road trip to me. We're like, can this van make it across the river? Like, there was no testing or
I
nothing.
actually completely forgot that.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, they'll continue. That just came to me while we were
Like, I
talking.
didn't remember that at all.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, this is why, um I think that it takes many people to remember.
Quote. That's a good quote.
um
Yeah. We were in Gondar, and there was rolling blackouts. I think that's where you were. There was rolling blackouts the whole
there
day.
was there was yes, there was rolling blackouts, that because it was storming. And so we weren't sure if
Hmm.
the show was going to happen or not anyway, because it was that night. And then at about 6 o'clock, we just decided we're just going to go. And so we all went down there, and the lights were at that point on in the city, and there was this young man who shimmied up an electrical post to wire the
Yes.
electricity, basically take the electricity from the Red Cross, because the Red Cross office had electricity, and
Yes.
rewire it to the stage.
I
And
remember the
then, yeah,
mayor
and
was
then,
standing there telling him how to do it. Just climb that pole.
ah! Oh my God, this is so much better telling the story together. So then, so then I do my set, and Elias does a set, and then you do a set, and in the middle of the set, the lights go out again, and everybody was like,
Yeah.
Oh, is it over? And you just walk on top of the roof of a van, which was parked really close to the stage, like it was a catwalk, and start rapping to the crowd, um, doing like doing your arms like, and everybody doing it with you, bopping with
Uh-huh.
you, and then people start
Uh-huh.
driving their cars to the stage to light the stage with their headlights. And it was just like they're saying, just keep
Yeah.
going, we're here, like we're here, keep going. And then the lights
Yeah.
go on, and it's like,
What I remember from that moment too is I think Elias might have started it, but they were yelling macchiato instead of my name. Macchiato, macchiato. Oh, I guess I got to
oh my
explain that
god, that
too.
is,
So we
I also forgot that. I also forgot that.
yeah, that name followed me because when we were in Harar, I remember like people identified us as we were walking around Ethiopia, and a lot of times they would ID me as like Ferenc. And we were in Harar, which by the way is the city where, your grandfather and my grandmother lived in a house together. It was really deep being in Harar.
Yes.
I remember that day I did not want to be seen as a Ferenc. So these kids asked me for, Andber, like asked me for $1. And I was like, no French. Habisha macchiato, like just in my broken English, trying to tell them, like, yo, I'm mixed, but I'm still Ethiopian. Like, don't call me a white person, basically. And they're like, oh, Habisha macchiato. Okay, cool. On butter, on butter. Like, but it was but it was just like a little funny moment. And I think it was Elias. Somebody just carried that name with me, and it got to Gondar, and somebody started a chant, and the whole crowd was like macchiato, like that was my new name.
It's actually would be a great hip hop name.
Yeah, if I wanted it, but nah.
Nah. No, that was one of the most epic shows that I've ever done. There were just so many little moments
Yeah,
of gold, you know.
right, right.
Other great. I did a show in Ethiopia in 2019 in Bahar Dar.
Mm,
That was also epic, like
mm,
right on the um, Lake Anna. That was one of my favorite shows ever. And it
nice.
was like music and circus. Because circus is huge in Ethiopia. Like there's
Circus, Circus Debre Barhan, like them.
but there's more. There's tons of circus troops. Like
Mm,
it's a
mm,
thing, and they're really good. And
mm-hmm.
let's see, other like some of the best shows. I don't know. Like I always love going to Montreal. Like Montreal audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've
Mm-hmm.
done a festival called Nuit d'Afrique
Mm-hmm.
many times in Montreal and just had transformative experiences. And then some of the best shows have been like in living rooms and like
Uh,
not formal art spaces, but like spaces where just life happens and you're just
yeah.
sharing yourself and people are sharing themselves with you and like you know, I did a bunch of house concerts, those are always great. Or there's just too many to count. But there was this show that I did in North Carolina also, and
Mm,
it was really intense because it was um, like it was in a building that had been built by enslaved people, like much
mm,
of the University of North Carolina has
mm,
was in Chapel Hill, like UNC Chapel Hill.
mm-hmm.
But I just like that was this powerful concert where I felt like some ancestors like enjoying the music. Like playing
Mm,
Ethio Blue in that space was
mm,
like deep,
yeah.
deep, 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 deep.
Yeah. It's wild how certain moments of like performing a song can change the song for you. Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. That's so deep. Um, I wanted to ask you how has your relationship with Ethiopia changed through the years? And I know that might be a loaded question, especially with everything politically that's gone on in the last couple of years. Um, I know my relationship is altered for sure. I don't, but I'm curious, like, how's it sitting with you? You know?
I mean, it's changed a lot
Hmm.
um, and it feels like it keeps changing.
Right.
Um, I think that when I was a kid, we couldn't really go back because of the political situation there at that time. And so when I was a kid, it felt very distant, and it felt
Hmm.
like something that I knew through my immediate family, but not kind of in this bigger way. And
Yeah.
then in my in my early adulthood, I started going with my family and by myself, and developed a relationship that was like, okay, this is present time now. It's a present time. And then having, become kind of a star in Ethiopia was a whole
Hmm.
other thing that happened through Kemekem and Abai Mado and songs like that, and having a relationship with the traditional music. Really, it was like that was what changed my relationship with Ethiopia again. There was this time where I had this show in Washington D.C. at a place called Blues Alley,
Hmm.
and afterwards, this guy came up to me. He was this like French, like a white guy, probably in his 30s, and he
Hmm.
came up to me and he said, "I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia, and my eighth grade students turned me on to your music, and that's why I'm
Wow.
here."
That's amazing. That's like a I made it moment, you know?
Yeah, he was like my 14, he said his 14-year-old students told him, "This is what happens when Ethiopian music goes to the US."
Uh,
And I was
wow.
like, "Whoa, they
Yeah.
get it." Like they
Yeah.
like, and that's always how it's been with my music in Ethiopia. Like in
Hmm.
the US, I have to explain myself. I'm a
Hmm.
paragraph. I'm like a lot, in Ethiopia, people understand what I'm doing. They get
Yeah.
it. Like I don't have
Yeah.
to explain anything. Like the person walking down the street, they understand. And so has, that really changed my relationship with Ethiopia. I haven't been in a long time. I haven't been for 5 years. It's the longest
Hmm.
I haven't been for. And part of that was because of the pandemic, at least in the beginning. And then, with like just having like, being like, it's a time of a lot of political instability and challenges. But what I will say is that I miss it so much. I
Yeah.
miss it so much, and I miss my family there. And I need to go, and I want to go, and I'm trying to go later this year.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I hope you make it, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. Especially just to reconnect with family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I wanted to ask more about movement. Because you mentioned it earlier. It's a podcast. I've also heard you, seen you describe it as a whole initiative like this, and it's a storytelling like concert series. Can you talk more about it?
Yeah, yeah. So we started out as a podcast,
Hmm.
and we we uplift the songs and the stories of immigrant musicians. And having just like been born in Ethiopia, grew up in the States, and just like not just loving Ethiopian music, but loving the music that is coming out of immigrant communities,
Yeah.
and just feeling like this is some of the baddest music on the block, and just wanting to make space for that to shine.
Hmm.
I also think we need new narratives of migration. I think the way we talk about migration is very toxic,
Hmm.
not just coming from the right, but of course, obviously coming from the right. But in addition to that, like when we think about migration, we think about either the act of crossing a border, or we think about people in the moment that they need something, where they need support. And I don't think that's fair.
Hmm.
I think that we, like immigrants, should be Like when we tell stories of immigration, migration, and immigrant peoples, like these are whole peoples who deserve to be talked about in the fullness of humanity. And by
Yes.
focusing on our cultural power, I think that
Hmm.
gives us a space to think about migration very differently, especially in a resource scarce world, a world that is facing climate change, where, like, listen, like migration is going to be unfolding at levels that are unimaginable in the next century. And we better prepare ourselves because people from every corner of the world are going to be migrants.
Yeah.
Um, so new narratives of migration, focusing on the people who've experienced it and the communities who've experienced it, focusing on cultural power. Every podcast episode features a different immigrant, migrant, or refugee musician. Our live shows everywhere we go, we work with local immigrant, migrant, and refugee musicians, and we create performances that are part music and part storytelling. And we're also on PRX's The World monthly, so we air to around 2.5 million listeners every month. We had a really interesting experience going to Abu Dhabi in 2022 because 90% of the population there are migrants. They call themselves
Wow.
expats, actually.
Mm.
Like, I mean, folks from everywhere, the Philippines, Ethiopia,
Wow.
Somalia, Venezuela, Egypt, all in the UAE, call themselves expats. And they are literally like, they are the society. And
Wow.
so we had this, beautiful experience working with a Somali rapper called Freak, a multi
Mm.
instrumentalist producer, one of the only hijabi women um,
Hmm.
composer producers in the UAE.
Wow.
Um, yes, called Galia, who is like huge over there,
Wow.
as well as a Filipino experimental guitarist and drummer called Cromwell Ojeda, the innovator of the experimental scene in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
So yeah, like we just, and it's also just fun. But at its heart, it's about love and just shining the love
Yeah.
of the cultural power that is coming out of immigrant musicians
Yeah.
and immigrant communities.
That's so beautiful. I got to see the movement show here in Seattle. Um, you had Dakota Camacho, Uncle Nick, who at that time was going by Mama Nikki. That's Uncle Nick now, and a Kiki, and just seeing the storytelling aspect of these shows is so powerful. And I feel like it's something that's a lot deeper than just seeing a concert. Like it's not just like seeing three or four people sharing a bill together. Like I remember there was moments where y'all were collaborating, on stage. Um, yeah, and just that storytelling aspect. Like it's one thing to go to a concert, but it's something completely different, and it hits you way deeper when you really connect with the humanity. With the real story at the heart of it that really gets missed even when people are talking about communities like in the news or whatever. It's like you don't get to see or hear or feel the humanity. So yeah, it's really powerful work that you're doing.
Thank you, cuz.
Yeah. And it's solidarity building too, I think.
That's
um
right.
yeah,
That's
like at,
right.
at the heart of solidarity building, I feel like you gotta, one, know yourself, and get to know each other's stories, share your story, and get to learn other people's, and see the commonalities. That's like a superpower that we have as musicians. With that, I wanted to ask you, um one thing that I've been very thankful for is that you've been outspoken on Palestine,
Yes.
this last year, in a time when so many people haven't. So many people are scared to speak up. um why is that important for you now?
I think that, you know, expressing our solidarity with our voices,
Hmm.
supporting Palestinians, speaking out against this genocide, against the decimation of land, of people, of infrastructure. It's urgent. It's something that we need to be doing every day, all the time. we can't sit by. We can't
Yeah.
sit by as this is happening. And but at the same time, I'm like, I don't. It's like for me, it wasn't like I should be intellectually speaking about it. It was like, like your heart breaks and you
Absolutely.
scream, you make a scream, you make a cry, you make a guttural sound because how can this be happening on this earth, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and just understanding the resilience of the Palestinian people and like just knowing intimately the just the friendships that I have with Palestinian people, and like they are like they are such a strong, resilient culture, and what they have been through is horrifying.
Yeah.
And so I don't just see something on the news. I see like how could I look them in the eye, the people that I love? How could I look them in the eye and not say something?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate it. It's just wild to me that so many people are still scared to speak up right now, especially musicians. Um, but yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned the new album you got coming up. Uh, is there more than one new project on the way, or what can you talk about as far as like new work on the way?
Well, right now we are deep in production for season 2 of the podcast, which will be out
Amazing.
in about a month.
Oh,
So,
okay.
season 2 is coming soon of Movement with Meklit Hadero. And we have really incredible guests on season 2. Season 1 also was incredible guests. We got to get you on there sometime, okay?
Hey, anytime, anytime.
In season 2, we have Daime Arosena, who's this amazing Afro-Cuban vocalist, songwriter, composer, genius composer and vocalist. Sid Sriram, who had one of the biggest records of 2023 called Siddharth. He's Indian, born in India, raised in the U.S. Buscabuya, we got Victoria Ruiz from Downtown Boys,
Oh,
and
she's dope. I love
I
her.
know
I got to do a event with her where we sat on a panel together a couple years ago. Yeah, she's amazing.
she's amazing, and I've just been watching what she's been doing for a long time and wanting to connect.
Hmm.
And so that was really, really powerful. We're working with Gerson Lanza, who's an Afro Honduran tap dancer who is
Okay.
also a band leader because
Ah,
he sees tap as percussion. Like he's like,
oh
I'm a
yeah,
percussionist, which
yeah.
is like obvious, right? Like I'm a
Hmm.
percussionist. He has a jazz quintet. He's the
Amazing.
band leader of that quintet, and he is just remarkable.
Yeah.
Um, so, I'm super excited about season 2. So that's coming up. Like I said, the album of traditional songs is
Hmm.
coming out next year. One thing, with that album, something very special to me was working with my father
Mm.
on songs in Kambatinya. So there's a song on that record that will be out. It's called Gifata, and it's like the song of celebration that happens at the end of a hunt or on New Year's, or these celebratory moments. And it used to be like a staple, like you would hear Gifata in Kambata everywhere, and then as like as the as the the spread of Pentecostal and
Mm.
other born again Christian um, you know uh, uh, like missionaries spread throughout
Hmm.
Kambata, those songs have been reduced and reduced and reduced.
Oh wow.
In fact, even like we think of that kind of colonialism as something that happened in the 1900s. It's like, no, it's
Hmm.
happening right now. And
Hmm.
so I had to listen through days of the Thousand Stars Festival, this festival of traditional music that happened in Ethiopia in 2008. I had to
Mm.
listen to days of this festival to find a source recording of Gifata. And then me and my dad worked on it together. And so
Mm.
like you cannot find this song that was like
Wow.
the song of the culture. Even like 50 years ago would be like everywhere. It's gone.
Wow. No
Um
recordings.
like the Thousand Stars Festival, I could find one. And listen,
Wow.
literally, I listened through like it's three like 12-hour recordings that happen to be on SoundCloud, and I
Wow.
listened minute by minute until I found it, minute by
Wow.
minute through days of recordings until I found this.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing work right there. That's great. I can't wait to hear it all, you know. Um I ask this question of everyone, you know, as we're wrapping up, but what is one thing that you hope people get from your work?
Um, that the West is not the center.
Hell
Number
yeah.
one.
That's one of my
Uh,
favorite answers I've ever heard to this question.
no, I've been thinking about this a lot. I was like, because you want like I do a lot of different kinds of things.
Mhm.
I make albums. I've always have organizing
Yeah.
projects, and lately I've just been trying to ask myself, as somebody who's trying to create more wholeness and cohesion, in my work,
Mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
just a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been asking myself, like, what are the themes at the center of my music and my organizing work? And one of the big ones is that the West is not the center.
That's real.
Um,
Mhm.
and um, but I even forgot your question. What was your question? Can you repeat it?
Yeah, it was just what is one thing or it could be a few things that you hope people get from your work.
I think also what I will say to that is like, for me, live performance is a big thing.
Mhm.
Touring, um, performing, and I think like when I'm getting on stage, one of my jobs, if not my primary job, in addition to like the musical expression itself, is to be as free as I can on stage, as
Mm.
free as I can, just to step
Mhm.
into the biggest sense of freedom that I can in order to invite other people into their sense of freedom.
Yeah.
Um, and so maybe those are the two things.
Yo, that's beautiful. That's amazing. I love it so much. Meklit, thank you so much for your time. It's been
Thank you,
a
cuz.
joy and a pleasure. I want to thank my cousin Meklit for being so generous with her time and stories today. Go check out that Movement podcast and any shows that come your way. Check out that Ethio Blue project. And tune in next week. My guest is the one and only Maimuna Youssef, better known as Mumu Fresh. You've been listening to the Worldwide Underground. If you like what you hear, tell a friend, share the podcast, and subscribe over on GabrielTeodros.substack.com. And check out Embers this week too. I'm gonna leave y'all with another song from Meklit's record. It's one of my personal favorites. It's called Antidote. We say there's medicine in the music, and that's exactly what this is. Much love.
Everyday heartbreak, everyday love, everyday kindness. Remember your mother. Everyday pressure, everyday pain. Everyone's striving to find home again. Antidote, antidote, antidote. Take the power from the poison. Remind them of what is inside them. Courageous ones, we have enough for all of us at the table. Everyday dreaming, everyday songs, everyday pushing, we keeping on. Everyday passes and everyday bread. You yourself are an offer. Turn the world on its head. Antidote, antidote, antidote. Take the power from the everyday spin, everyday sunrise, more oxygen, everyday lifting, and everyday peace. You are my survival, you